Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Everyone checking in on MJ. So we're still in an environment where individual names are literally doing the opposite thing in the same sector. Today at the end of the day, CL sold off with a dump, and MedMen saw a huge surge on just one 5-minute candlestick. Complete opposite action at the same point in time. So we're not used to that. That's not the normal way that this sector has been working for the majority of the last couple of years. But it's the market environment we're in now, and as always, we get different market environments and have to adjust to things. So we had a very significant pullback in the S&P 500 today, still in a daily uptrend, but certainly the first real day of consolidation that we've seen in weeks at this point. And overall, the Canadian MJ sector held up well, but we didn't get any follow-through. So we knew that CGC had to get follow-through from its bounce. We rejected from the high of yesterday, unable to break it, and got no follow-through. So we're looking back down at our double bottom at 38.38. The bulls really wanted to at least set a daily lower high, compared probably in the $42, $43 range, to give the bulls some space to work with. That's still possible. The hourly chart is still, it's still possible to change the trend. Yesterday was all bull from the low of the day. Today we consolidated. Bulls have to break the daily inside bar tomorrow, or at least set an hourly support level in the morning and break 40.66 to change this trend. Looking at it on the 4-hour time frame, we saw the bounce, no follow through. Have to see that continuation for the daily time frame to try and create some space. Otherwise, the odds of a break of 38.38 remain high. Cron didn't get any follow through either. Daily time frame for Cron double topped to the penny. So pretty clear resistance level for the bears to play around. We have the equilibrium that we're watching tightening up. And if we see this inside bar break bearish tomorrow, the odds of breaking bearish from this daily pattern will increase a good bit. If the bulls can get over 16.12, we'll be remaining inside this pattern likely into next week. Both CGC and Cron, it's pretty important for those daily inside bars to try and break bullish. Otherwise, the bears have an advantage. ACB saw some follow through today, but anything under 769 was just a lower high. Where did we top out? 766. Daily exponential resistance rejecting the price. So if the bulls are going to prove anything to us on ACB, we have to hold the low of 701, and we have to form a higher low and then break 766, get over the exponential resistances, everything that I said in the video yesterday for so many names. ACB is in that category as well and has to see a daily trend change and get over the daily exponential resistances for it to mean anything. APHA, just like Cron on the daily time frame, unable to break the high of yesterday and pulled back and closed at the low of the day. So we're in a tightening range. If we break 691 tomorrow and keep pulling back, that will be our new lower high in this tightening daily pattern. So again, we have our high of 768, low, lower high, higher low, and our lower high will be set at 721 if we do see further pullback tomorrow, and we'll be looking for a higher low compared to 635 to stay in this tightening range, likely into next week. TLRY, daily consolidation underway. Pretty healthy overall. Volume non-existent, which is exactly what the bulls want to see. Have to change the hourly trend back in favor of the bulls to be confident a daily higher low has been established. For this setup, that means holding 45.90 and breaking 48.14 to change that hourly trend if it were going to happen tomorrow. Otherwise, looking for that daily higher low to form, and we're getting towards, I was going to say previous resistance, but we already broke that level today with a low of 46. So no red flags on this consolidation, but the sooner the bulls form that daily higher low, the better the odds of continuation to try and keep this daily bounce going. OGI, bears in control. So close at the low of the day, clear bear break through the range of the last 6 days, and the next support level that we're looking at now, 6 psychological, and then going back to the daily to find the next clear level. After 6, we're looking down at 538. And actually, there's a little gap here. Nope, that gap filled. 579 and 580. So I would say there's a 586. So $6 and 586 are the two levels that stand out to me. Anything under 648 is just a daily lower high, keeping the bears in control. And there's no sign of the bulls on OGI or Hexo. Have not even seen 2 green days in a row since the end of May. So it's been a month since we've seen 2 green days in a row, which means the bulls are not proving anything to us. Hexo, monthly time frame still pulling back. We're at the lows. Hexo dropping down clearly to lower lows. The daily RSI only just now getting oversold for the first time since our all-time high. So anything under 593 is just a daily lower high, and the next support levels that we're looking at are 510, 5 psychological, and 498. And there is no sign of the bulls, and even when we bounce, we will just look for daily lower highs on Hexo and OGI. Bulls can definitely be patient with these two names because they're giving us no indication of a shift in sentiment. TRST is also still weak. 650, let's see, 656 and 650 are the only supports nearby, and resistance is 685 and 729. If the bulls do not break 729, they don't prove anything. We have no daily trend change. These are the tier 2 Canadian MJ names, and they are not performing well right now. VFF, so support of 1312 is approaching, and the daily time frame dumping a bit more significantly and closing at the low of the day. If the daily RSI gets oversold as we approach 1312, so if the next 2 days are red, let's say, and we're at 1350, I'm going to be interested in scouting the support level and looking for a bounce off of it. The 4-hour RSI is oversold. That's another reason. And the hourly RSI is oversold. So I would expect some short-term bounces before we got down to that support level of 1312. But if we were to see a drop under $14 tomorrow and get those 4-hour and 1-hour levels extreme, I may look to scale in and play off of that 1312 support. Have to be an ideal setup for me to be interested, but we might get one. T-God, breaking 313, just a lower high and lower low. That bounce did nothing. We rejected from exponential resistance. 3 psychological is the next support level that we're looking at. 306 and then 3 psychological. And anything under 342 is just a lower high, keeping the bears in control. No sign of a trend change on T-God. VGW, clear resistance, multiple tops here, a triple top, 429, 28, 27, and it closes at the low of the day. So that's not the reaction the bulls want to see to this resistance. We did not confirm the trend change and must hold 394. If we see these tops and then break 394, momentum is shifting back towards the bears. Have to hold 394 and break 429 to change the daily trend. IIPR bounce very significant. So we hit oversold conditions, 116 to 131 essentially. Very nice bounce. Daily higher low is 115.89. I am expecting the likelihood that we will likely see a lower high compared to 137.78. So high, low. I think I talked about a potential 4-hour equilibrium if we got follow through today in the video yesterday. So we did get that follow through. If we reject from 137.78 and start to consolidate on the 4-hour, we're going to look for an equilibrium into next week. And we'll look for a higher low compared to 115.89. So here's CL closing at the low of the day, and this is what I'm talking about with the end of the day action, where we went from 14.25 and we dumped 2% in 5 minutes. So at this point, the consolidation is getting to be a bit more than the bulls would like to see, and the close at the low of the day tells us we have not stopped pulling back yet. So low of 11.49, high of the bounce, and the bulls must form a higher low. The sooner the better to give the odds of continuation favor. But if we were to pull back here any further, and we're going to start looking towards an equilibrium being the most likely scenario as opposed to continuation. No daily trend change on CL after such a strong bounce. Have to change those daily trends and get follow through. CWeb, same thing, pulling back to the point where continuation is less likely. Still absolutely looking for a higher low compared to 14.65, but the more likely scenario now is that we find a higher low and then just look for a lower high and tightening range into next week. So it's worth scouting for a higher low if you want to make a play off of 14.65 support. And if hourly conditions get oversold, that makes it more comfortable for entering or scaling in, looking for the daily higher low, in my opinion. So if we were to drop down and break $17 tomorrow, then we'd be looking for hourly oversold conditions and for a daily higher low to form. OH stood out today. Green, anybody green stood out in the MJ sector today. So OH, daily inside bar. If it breaks bullish tomorrow over 902, then we're going to call 850 our new daily high or low. So low, high of the bounce. And if we break bullish over 902, 850 is our high or low. If we don't break bullish, we have not found our daily high or low yet. And then we have to break 930 to confirm a daily trend change and try and get over these daily exponential resistances. TRUL, fading back down, close at the low of the day. No bear volume, but we're closing at the lows. There's no daily trend change. 1335. Resistance of 1517. Bulls must hold 1335 and break 1617, 1517. But right now, the odds do not favor that because we are 25 cents from a bear break and we are $1.60 from a bull break. Big difference. So, laid out the criteria in the videos yesterday of what needs to happen for momentum to shift, and nobody is doing it at this point. IAN broke bullish from the pattern we were watching, so another name standing out because it's green in a sea of red today. And we had our falling wedge. So I did make one entry today. I had intended to enter 3 positions back in IAN that I had sold into strength on the initial bounce. Only re-entered one of them and now just patiently waiting. I'm not going to enter into any strength. I already have a good enough position that I'm just fine if we keep going bullish. And I would have to see, again, a drop back down to the lows if I were going to add those 2 more positions. But we got the bull break over the pattern this morning, over the downtrend resistance line. Hourly higher low formed, almost back testing and holding it. And then there's our continuation at the end of the day. In the last 5 minutes, we saw a bull move. We saw a bull move, consolidation, and then a bull move at the end of the day. But ITHUF saw it a bit more extreme. Actually, I take that back. I'm thinking of the MedMen candle we're about to look at. So IAN, we have our hourly higher low. So 407 is key short-term support, but this bounce, while it's nice, it doesn't mean anything to me yet. We have to change momentum on longer-term time frames. Anything under 444 is just a 4-hour lower high. So if we don't break 442, doesn't mean anything. So we have to see a 4-hour trend change, and then 478 is the key for our weekly lower high every week pattern to try and break. 478 is the high of last week. So 442 and 478, very key levels. Watching the 4-hour downtrend. And if we can't break 442 tomorrow, that would be a pretty lofty 5% move, which is why I expect it's more likely that we set a lower high compared to that level. MedMen. So MedMen got our bull break today, and I made an entry in MedMen before resistance broke. The reason being, we had other resistance right before it, and I didn't want to get triggered in to a stop buy that had slippage. So 309 was resistance. The last couple days, there was a double top there on shorter term time frames. So breaking 309, I bought in, and we got a little bit of follow through over 311, but definitely red flags. And the red flags was the size of the pullback. We broke 311, we got up to 316, that's great. But then we dropped and pulled back 4% from that high. So on this pullback, I exited half of my position. I started with a smaller position initially due to illiquidity. I exited half of it as soon as we got a red flag. I think it was a penny loss at that point. And then this is the 5-minute candlestick closing at the high of the day on a big bull surge. So the question is, can we get continuation into tomorrow? At this point, my position size in this trade is not really notable. So I will hold it if we get follow through tomorrow, but have to break 320. That's this resistance right here. So that's the left neckline that we were watching of the inverse head and shoulders pattern, and 320 must break tomorrow. If 320 does not break, I'll exit my position, but at this point, that position is so small because I exited half of it that it doesn't really matter what happens. In the short term, a couple percent either way is going to have very limited impact on my portfolio as a whole. But I have a position in MedMen, and we'll see what kind of follow-through we get from this daily trend change. So MedMen changed this daily trend. That's notable. TLRY and MedMen. What stands out about those two names? They were the most bearish. TLRY was the most bearish name in the Canadian MJ space, aside from maybe some of the low-cap penny stocks. And MedMen was the lead bear in the US MJ. And they are both changing their daily trends. but we're not seeing strength in other places. So what that's telling me is likely just ran out of sellers, ran out of shorts, and we're seeing that shift in momentum in the most beat up names from the last 4 months, essentially. So the question is, can it trickle down, and can we see other names shift their momentum as well? If we do not have a daily trend change, bulls prove absolutely nothing to us. We are remaining skeptical. The burden of proof is on the bulls. Laid out in the video very clearly, these are the setups. This is what has to happen for the momentum to shift, and right now the sector is not doing that. A couple names are, but that is not enough to have an impact on the sector as a whole. So tread carefully. Again, you know my opinion that we will see bottoms formed in a lot of names before the summer is over, just based on psychology of markets that I've explained in the past. But I'm not going to lose a big chunk of money by trying to hit these bottoms. I'm in some plays. I'm still in my OH and IAM position. I'm in a tiny med position, but very comfortable in those positions. So we'll take it one day at a time as always, and the bulls need to prove themselves to us. Hope you had a good day. We'll see you tomorrow. Do good things. Now we'll look at the barn. So bottom of the barn here is just a carport, but we would utilize the up. I would definitely need to get a bit better insulation, but just looking to have, 3 goats, so it should be plenty big. And I'd probably need to put some big fans up in here because it's definitely hot and stifling. So this comes off the top side of the barn where the goats would come out, and I was thinking of putting some fencing to cut off right here and then cut off along the side of the brush here. And there's an area in the back, which I'll go to in just a second, where I'm thinking they'll be concentrated. Chicken coop already established. I've always done my chickens free range. There's only appears to be 1 hawk on the property, but it's pretty small. So maybe starting them inside the cage and eventually giving them more freedom. Before we go up to the proposed goat area, this is the barn and that's the house. And we got the ponds over there. So this is where the perennials already are established. We got a row of raspberries and behind them are a row of grapes. You used to have strawberries here, but obviously they didn't make it. So I don't know if we would want to work with this cloth, this black cloth here, or pull it up. Certainly would have to worry about erosion for the time being if it were pulled up. So we'll put something here. Originally I was thinking the figs, but they might get too big and would block out the sun for the other guys. Maybe blueberries. So now we'll go back behind the chicken coop, and there's a lot of woods up in here that I'd probably put a fence on the other side of these grapes so the goats have access to all this brush in here. So there's the barn in the back of the chicken coop, and it opens up here. Could potentially put a tiny home here eventually, but for now I imagine it being the goats area. This back wall or back borderline of the property is fenced from the neighbors already, so that's convenient. And then looking down in here, this is the area that I would have to fence off because you can see the perennials are down on the other side, but I feel like that'd be a nice amount of greenery. And also thinking of getting the goats next spring, so anything that you would recommend planting in this area now, fast growing stuff that they could benefit from. Losing my breath. Hostas or I don't know what. I'd also like to put something in here to block off a bit more, get a bit more privacy. The previous owner definitely did a good job of putting evergreens around the property edges, but there's just some holes to plug. Perhaps put something right in there. Now we're gonna walk through here to the back end of the house. So here's the back of the house. There's some nice clear space here and it does get good sun, but it's also the leaching field of the septic system. They said that in the 20 years they were here it never really was anything, but we couldn't do too deep roots here. So I was thinking maybe a few more raised beds up in here, and then I want to do a bunch of wildflowers. So I don't know if we would designate their own raised beds for wildflowers, or I'd be open to putting a tarp down over the winter and putting some weight on it and killing the grass, and then in the spring just sprinkling a whole bunch of wildflower mix. I'd also want to get a hive or two, not necessarily for honey, I don't really care about that too much, but more so just for all the annuals and perennials and just the overall health of the ecosystem. So now we'll curl around into the driveway. So I got a waterfall feature here, the areas that we were just looking at. That's where I suggested potential raised beds, and then the wildflowers are on the other side of this magnolia. But this was, they used chemicals for this, and I'm gonna transition it to natural. So I've got someone that I haven't really talked to yet, but I'm reaching out to some people to see if they are knowledgeable in that. Definitely need a new filter and all that, and I'd like to put some little fish in there and some snails and stuff. I'd like to be able to get into it in the summer. It's pretty deep. And any kind of plants up here, there are already a couple little ones, but anything that would help with natural filtration. There's definitely a bunch of frogs that live back here.